famous landmarks in the whole of Britain, it is of course Blackpool Tower. Well, a little later in the programme, when I've got back down onto terra firma, I'll be introducing you to another BBC Pebble Mill television first as we join a flying club for a competition that tests not only the skill but also the daring of trainee and trained pilots. So while this Skyhawk takes me back down to Blackpool Airport, I hope you'll join me a bit later. Meantime, back to the foyer and Pebble Mill in Birmingham.
Bob Hall in bright and breezy Blackpool, and I think he's pretty well ready now to introduce us to the skill and the precision of spot landing competition up there at Blackpool Airport. Bob.
Whether you're an experienced air traveller or have never been further than Southend to Ostend on an air package tour, perhaps like me, you've always marvelled at the way the pilot manages to take off and land the plane just at the right moment. But you know, these days, more and more people are wanting to learn to fly for themselves, whether they're people who just fancy having a go for the sheer hell of it, or whether they're businessmen who are fed up of sitting on motorways in traffic and want to get from A to B at the quickest possible way. Well, today on Pebble Mill at 1, we bring you a television first. I'm at Blackpool Airport up here in windy and rather cold Lancashire, and today we're going to see a competition with a difference. The first time such a competition has ever been seen on television. It's the sort that trainee pilots have got to take part in. It's the sort of thing that any experienced man needs to do as something of a refresher course. Let me explain to you what happens. They take light aircraft such as these Pipers and Cessnas up to about 1,000 feet, and then as they begin their descent, they pull the throttle right back to zero. Obviously, they don't actually cut the engine off, but they pull it right back, and that means that the plane is in fact almost being brought in rather like a glider. Well, in a moment, we're going to see that competition, but before we do, I'm going to go out and have a look for myself. And the man who's going to be my guide is Sam Hardy, who's a former airline pilot, and in fact, he's senior judge today. How are conditions for flying, in fact, today?
They're fine. There's a slight crosswind if you look at the windsock. The cloud's quite high, there's no problem there.
Now, what about these white lines that sort of make a box effect on the runway? What are these for?
Well, this is the target for the pilots to try and land in. It's 50 yards square, approximately. And to do a glide approach, that is to say, close the throttle, not use the engine again, and judge the approach to land, aim to land in the centre of the box is helpful, and it contributes towards pilot skill.
Well, we've got a caption here to show how the runway's been marked out. A perfect landing scores 10. Otherwise, you could end up in another box and score 7, 4, or 2. If you undershoot or overshoot, then you score nothing. It certainly is a tough test. And we will find out in just a short while who, in fact, is the best man on the day.
We're introducing the competitive element to try and encourage people, obviously, to do better.
Well, before we see that competition, I think you and I are going to go and have a look for ourselves, aren't we? So perhaps if you'd like to lead on.
Okay.
We'll go and see what it's like.
Very good. Once I'm on the downwind leg, I'm looking at the airfield and the windsock to try and confirm the idea that I had before takeoff of what the wind's doing. Right, we've got the runway in sight, we're nicely downwind. Heading height, speed check. So, undercarriage is fixed on this aircraft. Fixtures in, car B will check as a preventative measure. And reset. Fuels on both tanks, contents sufficient for diversion. Once I close the throttle, then I can't use any more power. So this is the experience you're waiting for. No power. There we are. I'm going to reduce the speed down to the gliding speed. Sorry.
And gradually losing height as well.
Yes. There's the box coming up there, look. A little bit of turbulence.
Mike Whiskey, hold position, stand by.
Raise the nose, there we are. Hold off, hold off, hold off, and we're just in the box.
Once we're back alongside, we can go and watch the others and see how they get on. And number one, Don Sidebottom, is on his way back in, and I'll ask Sam Hardy to talk us through the descent and how well he thinks he's doing.
Well, this approach looks quite nice. Don is a private pilot, and he's had this airplane for over 12 months, and he's handling it quite well at the moment. This is the one with the slightly bigger engine in. That's a reasonable round out, and he's right in the box. Just a little bounce, but he's away for a second. That was quite good, actually.
And the next one in is the only lady competitor, in fact, this lunchtime, Sue Andrew.
Sue Andrews is another very keen amateur pilot, if I may use that expression. In fact, Sue is a physiotherapist and teaching sister, and she's extremely keen. She loves every minute of the flying. This looks like quite a nice approach, but she does seem to be going slightly high, perhaps on that last application of flap. Nice steady approach though, nice and safe, and she's into the 4 box there.
This is Guy Palmer.
This guy is another keen, well, I keep using the word amateur pilot. He's doing quite well, Guy. He's started to do some instrument flying, and he does do quite a bit of cross-country flying. This is quite a nice one.
Looks like 10.
It's quite good.
It is.
Yes, and that's pretty well in the centre. That's a good 10.
Well, we think that this is Bill Hamilton on his way in for what would be his first landing.
Yes, there are 2 aircraft on the approach at the moment.
He's going back up again, in fact.
He's going round. He was obviously far too low if that was him. We'll just identify him as he goes by. Yes, he's in puffy uniform. Yes, that's right. That's an overshoot.
This is Arnold Gowlett.
Yes, he's sinking quite rapidly there. Now you've got the ground in the shot, and you can see that he's sunk quite quickly. In fact, I don't know what he's done with the flap. Well, that decision cost him dearly there, because he's down in 2.
And the 6th competitor is Jeff Crossley. In fact, Sam, if he comes in well on this one, he could in fact go straight into 3rd position. Perhaps a shade high, is he?
Possibility exists there, but he's slipping a bit of height off. And, as we saw earlier on, it's difficult to say straight away. That's all right. If he rounds out now, he's just about to make it. And he's under. And, John's got his hand up, so I'm afraid that's an undershoot for that one. Just spoiled it there, right at the end of the approach.
And number one, Don Sidebottom, is on his way back in. And this angle looks a little bit wide from here, Sam.
Well, it does, but he is allowed to do that. There's no penalty marks for widening the turn a little. And he's got some very useful flap settings on the Cessna. It looks like he might just do it again. A little bit of turbulence there, and he's just overcooked it a tear shade this time. Not quite as good as the last one, but a good total of his 2 attempts there.
And Sue Andrews coming back in after a slightly disappointing 4 for the only lady competitor in the last round. Here she comes again. Do you think this looks better than 4 points, Sam?
It's a nice steady approach again. She does nice approaches, this girl. And she's in the box. No, well, she made the 7th.
Well, it looked a beauty until the very last minute, didn't it?
It did, yes. She just spoiled it, but we'll give her 7 points for that in the 2nd box.
And we're back with Guy Palmer in his Cherokee. Now, he was in for 10 last time, and this looks pretty good as well.
This could be the man to watch, as you say. And he's very, very close. If he can get that one down, he's in. And he is in.
He's done it.
What about that?
He's done it.
That's 2 consecutive targets. He's got top parts on that one. Total of 20 points.
And in fact, right on his heels, we've got Arnold Gowlett, who scored only a 2 last time, and coming in to try and improve his position.
Oh, yes. Well, Guy Palmer is unassailable there. That was an extremely good effort. Arnold's losing height rapidly just there through the wind gradient again. Looked as though he could have spoilt it. Yes,
In fact,
I'm afraid
the judge's arm's up.
Yes, judge's arm, but
The wheels were down.
relatively speaking, of course, that didn't look too good. But when you think about it, really, the object of the exercise is to get into a field, and they all would have succeeded getting into the field somehow.
Well, that's the end of the action, and before we talk to the man who won the prize this afternoon, let me just have a word with Sam Hardy, who's been the senior judge this afternoon and guided us through these landings. What do you think of the standard of the competition this year, Sam?
It's a very good standard all round, as usual. We are well used to these high standards. A lot of credit's due to our flying instructors, who you see behind us there.
Because
And,
certainly in the later stages there was quite a stiff breeze to contend
yes.
with as they were coming in.
Yes, it could be said that it was more difficult for the later competitors, but Guy was near the tail end and he coped with it all right.
Indeed, and the man who was the winner, 100%, the only 100%er, Guy Palmer. Guy, how long have you been flying?
I've been flying for about 4 years altogether. It's about 2.5 years has been at ANT, and 2 years before that.
Well, before I congratulate you on your success and present you with this handsome tankard, courtesy of BBC Television, let me just ask you if you could talk us through the descent and the landing as we saw you come in a few seconds ago.
Well, as you know, it was an ordinary circuit at 1,000 feet, and the idea was to do a glide approach and land in the box. And so coming in on base leg, we closed the throttle and turned onto base leg and then down onto finals, and a couple of stages of flap on finals, and it was coming down quite nicely. And then we had to do a small side slip to get rid of a bit more height. And then the last stage of flap, and after that I just closed my eyes and landed in the box. It was
And landing very successfully. Well, on behalf of the BBC's Pebble Mill at One programme, can I present you with this tankard, which we will have it inscribed. I'm told there's still enough money in the kitty for us to have it inscribed for you.
Am I allowed to drink out of it first?
Yes, you are indeed. And our thanks to everybody who's joined us here today. And before I hand you back to Birmingham, let me just say that it's been what I call a typical Blackpool day. A watery sun, a stiff breeze off the sea, and it's been rather cold. Well, before we leave Blackpool, let's take a final look at some of today's spot landing competitors.
Spot on stuff from Blackpool there.